This is Life Transformation Radio. Prepare to engage. Seatbelt activated. Download initiated. Your quantum journey of transformation begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. Hi, I'm Rob Actis, best-selling author of The Law of Action, voice actor, business mindset coach, the podcast whisperer, and Mr. Action himself. Life Transformation Radio is heard in over 90 countries. Thank you for joining us from all around the world. Whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to Life Transformation Radio for some time, I want to personally thank you. Here at Life Transformation Radio, we are committed to share more about real life, love, the power of positivity, romance, and of course, laughter. We care about helping others find their internal drive and purpose. We celebrate life's challenges and overcoming them. Please rate and review Life Transformation Radio on your favorite podcast platform. Also, a personal invitation from me to you, please join us on Facebook in the Life Transformation Radio community. On this show, my guests are amazing people who are forces for good in the world around them and live a life of transformation. My guest today, well, she does just that. Today, Andrea King and I discuss how to get out of your own way so you can live a life of purpose. If you want to overcome your biggest roadblocks, understand that we create everything we experience and love what you do so you can live a life in constant flow. This is the show for you. Andrea King is a Renaissance woman, Feng Shui geek, and creative artist who has turned her life into an almost constant state of flow. Andrea King spent decades figuring it out, and she wants to share with you. And today, we are so lucky to have her because her greatest joy is seeing people realize who they are, why they're here, and how to live their life purpose. Andrea, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Thank you so much.
We're living in flow. Yeah, little friction there. Forgot to turn the microphone on. That always helps. It just does. It just, if you press that button and then you can hear me, I can hear you fine. I'm like, wait, there's no levels.
This is what life is, though, a series of interruptions and weird things. So we just keep going.
I know. I love it. I love it. Well, first of all, congratulations. Before we started, you handed me this new book, and it's called Hey You. Hey You. Hey, I think of Pink Floyd when I see the Hey You. Hey you, yeah. Own your story. Get out of your way. A straight up guide to getting real, cutting crap, and creating the life that you actually want. So first of all, congratulations. That's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's a lot of work to write a book, and people don't realize it. A lot of people have books inside them, and then they just sit on the shelf.
They do.
And they just...
Multiple books.
And they just turn into a book. So to actually have something is really amazing. So congratulations. That's pretty exciting. So tell me about this. When did this happen?
So it was in process. It's basically a guide that simplifies the process that I teach people. So it helps me to not repeat myself as much for people that don't actually have the time and energy, money, whatever, to actually work with me directly. This is like boxing it all up and handing it to people easily. So it was in process for several years, and I was like, I just need to publish this. So
it's Andrea in a box.
And
I love it.
It's the foundational process for not being overwhelmed with doing what it says on the cover, getting rid of the stuff that is in your way and becoming who you really are. So,
I'm going to read this cover to cover.
You're like one of my favorite poster children for my work. You've done so well with this. So you don't even need to read it. You are.
I'm the poster child. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Well, today we want to talk about transformation, and you've done so much in your life, but I would really like you just to share a little of your story of just your journey of your life. I mean, you've accomplished so much and you reinvent yourself all the time, but where did you come from?
Where did I come from? I came from a middle-class suburban family in Chicago, outside in the suburbs. So I grew up kind of in that environment. And it was honestly a very sheltered, I don't know, I guess sheltered is probably the right word. I wasn't exposed to a lot of culture and a lot of other things. It was kind of this prescribed life. which was fine. I was very comfortable growing up. My family had plenty of money. My dad worked. My mom stayed home with us. It was very typical suburban family. And, I just went through that and didn't really have any questions about it. Everything was done and it was easy. My family started a business when I was 14, so we opened a bakery, and I was working from the time I was 14 on. So working for your family, I'm sure anyone listening has done that. It's a different dynamic, and working for my dad was definitely a demanding, difficult situation, but it really shaped me into someone who takes ownership, and that's part of that family business. I really take ownership and responsibility for things I get involved in and how I interact with that.
Very cool. So you're in Chicago, you're growing up, and then how did you end up making it all the way out here to Arizona?
Right to Arizona. So I series of events landed me in the Moline, Illinois, Iowa border, dating, boyfriends, all that kind of stuff, and life happening. And I ended up there. And my parents decided to sell the bakery in 1998. So I moved away and got, a whole new perspective on like, oh, now what?
Right.
So I met some new people. I had a boyfriend at the time that I moved there for. And we just, we were early 20s, just having fun and being nerdy and that kind of stuff. So we did that for a while. And through that process, I met my first husband, who is a wonderful human being. We were good friends. And then realized that there was something more there. So he told me the night before he moved to Arizona how he felt about me, which was really a waking up point for me, a huge transformation, because the relationship I was in was very limiting. I was, I guess, something I created for myself to survive. We can look at it that way. But it was difficult. And he kind of woke me up and said, hey, I really like you. You're an incredible person. And I was like, me? Wait, what? So he told me that, and then he moved to Arizona, and I had to sit with that for a little while to let it sink in, just to even believe that was a real thing.
So you went with him to Arizona?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I knew that if I just jumped up and followed him, that was not the right thing to do. So I went back to my parents' house, actually, and lived in their basement. I got a full-time job and a part-time job, and worked really hard. I kind of went through some time to just really be centered and not just chase that next thing, but to really decide, what do you want to do with this? How do you feel about this person? Is this someone that you really want to be with? Or are you just like, oh my gosh, it's the next thing? So 6 months later, I asked him to marry me. And within a few months after that, I visited Arizona, which was a huge, huge thing.
What month was that?
The first time, I think it was January.
Okay, good. Because if you come and visit in August or September.
I think it was January. The whole thing's a little mixed in my head now, because this was back in 1999, 2000.
That's the lost leader. You come in like January, February, and it's like, oh my God.
Oh, I want to live here.
You want to live here.
Well, yeah,
Surprise.
there was Christmas lights on the cactus, and it was beautiful, and I couldn't understand what was going on, but I just knew, like, I want to live here. This is it. So I had already, we'd already talked about, our relationship, and it was really natural and easy. So I moved out here, and we planned our wedding, and we actually were at the airport in Phoenix on September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
And we're sitting in the terminal, and the TV screens are all off, and it's early in the morning, and I hear this guy, it's a big New York accent guy, and he's like, what? This is in the time before everybody had cell phones, and we didn't. We didn't.
Right. Yeah, very few people did.
Yeah, so I'm like, what's going on? And so he starts talking. He's like, wait, what's happening? And then the TV screens start coming on, and it's like as the second plane's hitting the towers on the screen, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I got over to a payphone and called my parents, and I'm like, turn the TV on. I don't think we're getting on a plane today.
Wow.
So we got in the car and drove 30 hours to Chicago, and everybody made it to our wedding that Saturday following, except for 2 people. So we went through with it. We did it.
That's awesome. And then you eventually got to Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we were living here for a short time before our wedding. So we were back to Illinois for the
30
wedding.
hours from Arizona to Chicago.
Yeah, we drove.
Wow, that's commitment.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we had to drive back, of course, right after our wedding, and went down to Rocky Point for our honeymoon. So
beautiful place.
Yeah,
Beautiful place.
yeah.
All right. So you're kind of airy-fairy. Have you always been kind of like woo-wooish and, just the flow state and,
No, not
like,
at all.
How did this happen?
It was about 2000. So we were married in 2001. About 2009, my marriage wasn't a bad marriage. It was just at a place where I was questioning what else is there. And that's a very dangerous question to ask because you start getting answers to that.
Right.
People show up and books show up and classes. Oh, so for me, it was like, I guess. And when I asked what else is there, I realized, and with my marriage, I stayed home. I was lucky enough to stay home with my kids, but I did not want to be a housewife. That was not me. So I'm like, I got stuff to do. I just felt this urge. I got stuff to do. So I started asking. I started looking. Meetup was kind of popular back then. So I started going to meetups and meeting people and learning stuff. And the airy-fairy, the spiritual, the
woo-woo.
the self, the self-awareness, the personal development work, the woo-woo.
All the stuff we love here at Life Transformation Radio. I mean, that's great. I love it. It's so incredible. So that's a big... There's not a lot of woo-woo in spirituality in Chicago.
None.
No,
There's none.
Exactly.
It's very gray and very. I call it gray there because the overarching feeling is very neutral and very it's not transformational.
Right.
It's not. And when I go back and visit, it's like everything is still playing in a loop, and it's kind of creepy, honestly.
Yeah, because things in the more spiritual realm, they change so quick.
Yes.
Like just ebbs and flows and this and that and burn things down and rise up.
And the phoenix.
And the phoenix, yeah. And you're in the
desert.
Phoenix. Yeah, exactly.
So the desert challenges us. And coming here, I knew that. I'm like, I'm going to be challenged. I'm going to be challenged to be more who I am. And that has definitely happened.
That's great. So your marriage ended, and then were you still in transformation and transition? You're still on your journey of your spirituality?
Well, as long as I'm breathing, I think that'll be the case.
Of course.
My marriage ended actually in a beautiful way. We separated amicably. We did everything together. We even took our wedding rings to the top of a mountain and placed them, under a rock with a little, and I had sewn them into a little pouch and everything. And so we ended our wedding, our marriage on a high note. And that was a really intentional thing for us to redefine. We are not a married couple, but we are co-parents and really good friends, and we will always be there for each other. So that was a really neat moment to realize that, I love you enough to do this peacefully and to own that we're being pulled apart because we both have other things we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And fighting that, and I've seen so many couples that just fight that so hard and they end up suffering so long before they give in and like, okay, fine. Okay, I'll give up.
Well, yeah, I have a lot of friends right now, our circle of friends that are in divorce, and it's so nasty.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also that same concept of self-ownership. If you don't realize that there's two people in this relationship and you brought each other into your life so you could do that together, learn from each other. Right. If you're not learning and growing and you're not looking in the mirror, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, looking in the mirror. Exactly. Exactly. So you've transitioned, and one of the things about you is you kind of write your life. So you have this book that you wrote, but you really write your life. You reinvent like a lot. Like I've known you for 6 years and you've reinvented a lot in 6 years.
Yeah. It's an awareness that we have the ability to. And it seems so simple, but we block ourselves from being free to do what we want to do. And that seems so simple. But when you start looking at how you're blocking yourself, all the relationships you bring in to limit yourself, and you start realizing, holy crap, I'm doing this to myself. Then that's what this book is. Get out of your own way because you're the only one doing it.
Yeah. You're responsible for your life.
Yeah. So part of a big catalyst for me was learning about Feng Shui, which is all about intention, energy, and then the thousands of years of agreement that it works. So I learned about it after I already had done some things. So when I was taking the classes, I was connecting that, like, wait a minute. So this room in my house means this thing and this happened, like all these little things happened. And then I learned about it afterwards. So I wasn't inventing like, oh, well, this is because Feng Shui. I was like, no, they're like connected, like, oh, wow, this is really a thing. So it's a powerful tool, and I absolutely love using it.
So you've had moments of transformation. So I know, I mean, you had some good crashes and burns in your life since I've known you. And but the thing is you have taken responsibility and have built back up and once again wrote your own story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that relationships are a really good example, whether it's friends or business or romantic relationships. Everybody who we bring in is there to either teach us something, teach us what we want, teach us what we don't want. And if we can recognize that and acknowledge, like, what is this relationship really for, we can come out of it with this amazing growth. And even if it's like, wow, okay, you're just here to give me this little piece of information. I don't need to cling to you. Go ahead, bye. Or like, we should probably be together because we obviously have major gifts to share with each other, or we have to create together, or, you have a cookie to give me. I don't know, whatever it is.
Right. Well, there's, I love the flow state, and I talk about it all the time, and I don't like friction.
Right.
I like flow. Mm-hmm. This week has been quite friction. There's a lot of friction, and it's the thing about the friction is it's not me. It's outside forces.
It is. And in that, we have an opportunity to respond to the friction. So even knowing, like, I'm having friction, there's a lot going around me, we have the responsibility to own our part of it. Like, I can only control how I react to these people or these situations. But the friction's always going to come up. And it just challenges us, like, hey, how grounded are you? How centered are you? And then you get shoved. And then how fast can you come back to your center space and be good again? Yeah.
So I had a technology issue with a company, and it really cost me a lot. It was a recording for one of these shows, and we weren't able to recover it. And it was terrible because it was an incredible interview. Oh. And the guy thanked me. He's like, I am so glad it was you. I'm sorry that you lost the show. I'm sorry that you lost the audio, but I'm so glad it was you. He goes, you haven't yelled at me. You haven't screamed at me. You haven't threatened me. You haven't. I said, look, it's technology.
Yeah.
And probably Mercury's in retrograde. See, I'm kind of woo-woo. I think the full moon is like tonight or tomorrow. So I kind of figure it was building up to it. But I know that a lot of people have over the last couple of days have had serious issues with technology.
Mm-hmm. I have as well. Yeah.
Everybody.
It's a thing.
Like, I mean, it's funny because, almost every, and the different, so I have my podcast and I have my voice acting career and just talking to people, and then from my coaching and all these different elements, all different genres of people, they've all had challenges.
Yeah, everybody does.
And especially podcasters. Mm-hmm. All of my podcaster friends, guests haven't shown up, wrong time zones, the microphone. And so, it causes overwhelm when, there's so much stuff. I mean, it was to the point I just like, I'm shutting today down and we're going to regroup, because every time I go check an email or get a phone call or see a text, it's something. And a lot of it wasn't have even anything to do with me. It was just friends or acquaintances or business associates that are like, I'm not able to do this because my whole world is blown up.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting. Yeah. So one of the things you talk about is no more overwhelm. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with all the morass of bullshit that goes on in our lives on a daily basis and not be overwhelmed? Because it's hard. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. When the world seems overwhelming, it's usually two things are going on. You're stuck in an emotional state. So your energy is not in your center. It's not like in your core, in your belly, in the middle of your body. It's usually up more in your heart or in your shoulders, and you feel that, like that anxiety, fluttery feeling.
Right.
So overwhelm can only happen when you're in that state. So if you can get out of that state and doing breathing exercises and bringing your energy into your body really helps with that. However...
Oh, honey, I was breathing.
But...
I was breathing.
That's the physical part. But the reality is, when you've got a to-do list that's really, really big, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? I love that question. One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Right, we know that. But when we look at it and it's like a mountain and it's starting to topple and the pieces are falling on us and it's like, oh, gosh, what am I going to do? You have to stop and back up from it and find out what's the most important thing to do first.
Yeah.
And the rest can sit there.
Right.
And that's what this book is about. It's how to define the top 3 things that are most important, how they're affecting you, and how to address them. A big part of it is accountability, is finding someone to kind of keep you accountable. So that's another good thing, is when you're overwhelmed, ask for help. The first whole section of that book is like, ask for help.
I'm all for that. It's so important.
You have gotten really good at that.
It's so important to ask for help. And
it's like the only thing, honestly. If you're overwhelmed and you're like, okay, I have 7 things to do, who do I know that can help me? And if you think about how much do you love helping people?
I love helping people.
Right. So do I. So when someone asks me to help them, I'm like, oh, yes, I'd love to help you. But if we ask them, we're giving that same opportunity to someone else who also loves helping people. So when you stop thinking about it as I'm asking or they're being asked, and let them be asked for help, because most people are like a huge yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
over.
Exactly. It's so important to, put your ego aside and ask for help. There's a lot of stuff that I'm really good at. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not good at. Mm-hmm. And I've just decided that if I'm not good at it, I'm going to get someone else to do it, because
that's it.
I want my life to flow.
That's it.
The lights, I had me do electrical, the house would burn down.
It's a really good example, and letting someone be in their power is really important. Giving them that acknowledgement and that gratitude. Hey, you're really good at this. Can you do this for me? It allows someone else to do something that's easy, and then you give them some money, and you don't have to do it, and it's done, and everybody's happy.
And that's the most amazing thing when you do something that's easy, because podcasting for me, interviewing, love it, can talk forever. Mm-hmm. When I purchased Life Transformation Radio, my wife Tanya said, oh my God, because we built up a lot. We had to do the rebranding and get all the processes and procedure in order, and the guest and all that lined up. And it was a lot of work. And she's like, oh my God, that was so hard. And now you're going to have to do all those interviews. And I'm like,
I get to talk to cool people all the time.
This is like so cool. So it's
perfect.
It's amazing when you're in your flow and you're doing what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Life just works really well. Then when you're not doing what you're not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the distraction mode we all get into. And I think the part of that that's most important is the intentionally distracting yourself. When you're overwhelmed, go do something to zone out. I'm a big fan of going out in the sun, sitting with your feet on the ground, and that just any kind of connection to nature will help you ground and be more centered. But even like going and playing a video game or something, or watching a movie, just totally do something that's zoning out from all the stuff that's going on until you feel better. And then when you go back, it's like, oh, I got this. It's no big deal.
So I did that. Yesterday was a terrible day. It was really stressful. And I'm like, I'm going to watch a movie. But a lot of movies you have to think. I like really deep movies, and I like with a great story. And I watched a movie from the 90s. It's called Good Burger.
Okay.
Welcome to Good Burger. I'll show you the trailer.
Watch it.
It's the most unthinking movie that I could watch.
Right. And you laughed probably.
I laughed. Yeah. Tanya was with me, and we laughed, and it got me in a great flow state, and had chicken wings, and it was all good.
There's a piece to that a lot of times when we're not in flow, we still try to push through it. So that frustration, overwhelm, when you can say, I feel frustrated right now. I need to stop what I'm doing and go take care of me, because nothing I do is going to work.
Yeah,
and when you can acknowledge that, it's funny, because you're so much more productive when you stop what you're doing and go and come back. And just that acknowledgement has been huge for me.
Yeah, it works so well. I had technical problems, and I just said, I'm doing all these things. I just stopped. And it did. It just kind of reset my brain.
Yeah.
And I was able to look at it a different way.
Yeah.
I wasn't as stressed, because when you're caught up in the moment, all those chemicals in your brain are firing off, and you're just in crazy mode.
Yep.
And even though I don't get too riled up about much. My brain gets riled up, but on the outside, I don't get too riled up. But on the inside, I was pretty riled up. Because I don't like to let people down, and it wasn't my fault, and I was still responsible.
Yeah.
So I had to take care of that.
Right.
And, it's so important to stay in that present moment and to take that break. Mm-hmm. To take that break. So, you talk about looking in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Is that part of the process of just realizing what you can and can't do?
Yeah, it's when you go through the process that I put together again, and there's a zillion processes out there, so finding one you like works. This one is basically a 5-step thing where you look at what's going on, just being really honest, like what's going on in my life, and I have like little worksheets and all this stuff through
That's
there.
the hardest part for people to do is to
Yeah.
how are you
What's going
feeling?
on? Yeah,
Be
being
honest.
honest about that. Like, I could use more money. I don't feel great, and my energy's low. My relationships kind of, whatever it is. So all these little pieces, if we're honest and we write them down and look at them, then it creates a relationship between what we're blocking. So the whole process is looking at it and then like really disrupting what's going on and coming up with a brainstorm of possibilities that would be amazing to solve them. So that's really fun. That just gets your brain out of that stuck mode. And then once you have that giant brainstorm done, you can pick a few things that are tangible. Like obviously we're not going to put a water slide in the living room, most of us. But
That sounds fun.
But when you put that on your brainstorm list, your inner child gets like, what? Wait, what are we doing? So it's really important to not limit yourself with that brainstorm. Let everything come out and let all that flow and all those crazy ideas. And then when you grab those tangible things like, okay, I need to clean out my closet, that becomes like, oh, that's easy. So it's, I see that look you're giving me. But it's like taking it down to one little thing and then accomplishing that. Then you get on a roll of accomplishment. You get to just continue doing things, and it's satisfying.
I love it. Well, once again, you're giving and giving and giving, but I want to know more about transformation. So what are some moments in your life where you had transformation, and what did you learn from that? And how did it propel you to the next level?
I'm just going to give you an example because I think
that's what I want as an example.
It's a really good example.
Okay.
And it was amazing to me how much came up for me with the thinking process before this happened and what it brought up and all the thoughts around it. And this happened last night. So it was very recent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I don't know if you have even noticed.
I did notice.
But I figured if you did, you were kind of like not saying anything because I've had dreadlocks for about 10 years. And last night I cut them all off.
Yeah, you look amazing. No, you look amazing.
And
you look younger.
Thank you.
Like I haven't had a chance, we jumped into the studio and we're recording this. We want to get this out. But no, I was definitely going to have the conversation, but you look amazing.
Well, I figured you probably did notice, but
I noticed I noticed.
The timing was that partially that I started coloring them and the hair was actually damaged so much that like little pieces were breaking off.
Wow.
So I'm like shedding and I'm like, I hate this. So it was partially that. And I've had them for probably 10 or 11 years and, I've trimmed them and, I have my head shaved and all this stuff, but it was a moment where I'm like, this feels old and dead and it needs to go. And then I sat there and I'm like, wow, how much of this is my identity? How much do people call me, oh, the girl with the dreads? Like how much of this has become part of who I am? So, and I'm like, and I wonder what my hair color looks like now. Like, I wonder what's under all this.
Wow.
So I did. I had like a good half an hour of really solid, what is this going to be like? And then like what are people going to think? And I'm like, I don't care. This is about me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't care. And that was huge. It was huge. I grew up with a lot of, I got made fun of a lot when I was a kid because I had this big, curly, crazy, froey, weird hair. So finally getting it into dreadlocks in a space that my hair really liked being in and it was easy. It was like I got complimented on my hair for 10 years.
Right,
oh, your dreads are amazing. Your hair's so pretty. So I was like, well, who am I without this? I'm like, I'll go find out.
You're amazing. I mean, so it's interesting.
I'm still me.
You look refreshed and you look reborn and you look younger.
Yeah, and
like,
I feel it.
Way younger.
And I combed my scalp for like a half an hour and I stood under the shower and like the top of my head, because I've had dreads for so long, it's so sensitive that it feels so good to have my head rubbed.
Well, that's why.
I think you know this.
I know. Yes, as a fellow bald person, yes.
I was like, I'm going to try the Rob hairstyle.
I know, it's great. Well, I haven't shaved in a couple days, and so it's almost as much as yours, and it grows fast.
It does.
So let's talk about transformation. So
Yeah.
is it going to transform into like long hair?
I have no idea.
It's going to be what it's going to be.
I'm not dyeing it. I have this weird dark, like kind of a mohawk shape in the front.
It's awesome. Gizmo from
I
immediately thought of
Gremlins or something.
Exactly. I thought of Gizmo
I'm
from
like,
the Gremlins.
oh, that's weird. So the sides are all, very silver, and then like the back, and Jeremy was shaving it for me. He's like, you got like a leopard print pattern, like your silver and dark is like all mixed. I'm like, all right. I just don't care.
I know, it's cool though.
It feels really good, and I'm really glad I did it. And I felt like it was like this whole week, like you were saying, there's this friction. I'm like, this hair is driving me crazy. I want it gone. I'm like, I do. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I figured coming on here, I'm like, I'm going to do it. And
I know.
then I'm going to go on Life Transformation Radio and say, you know what? If you want to shave your head, just do it. It'll grow back. It's just hair.
It's so true. A lot of people are reserved about making those changes. Mm-hmm. And right now is the perfect time because
do it.
no one's at work. They don't care what you look like. You're all working from home. No one cares. It just doesn't matter anymore.
Well, the thing is that nobody really has ever cared. So we make that up. We take other people's judgments as our own trauma. Basically, we use other people to torture ourselves with, but really nobody cares. When I sent my mom and my sister a picture, and I said, "You get to see my head first," and they're like, "Oh my gosh!"
It's amazing.
And my mom's like, "Oh my gosh, it looks so good," and I'm like, "Yeah, it feels good." So it is, and definitely hair is, especially dreadlocks. They absorb energy. So this past year, I'm like, I want it off of me. I want it done. I want to be away from this energy.
Well, it's interesting because I saw you early, and you said you were going to reveal something, and I saw you in a hat, and I've never seen you in a hat.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to just let things unfold. Because normally in the past, I would have been like, me, I would have said something, but totally. I'm like, you know what? Let's just let it unfold.
Yeah,
this is unfold.
Well, I was wearing a hat more often because my hair was at a state where it was small enough, we'll call it,
right?
Because I had shaved enough, and then with the breakage and everything that was happening, it was small enough to wear a hat. And we work outside a lot, so wearing a hat's really nice. But wearing a hat's really fun. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to try hats now because I can.
Well, there's been a lot of people that are getting tattoos lately also. A lot of my friends are like, I'm getting a tattoo. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You? You're not that cool.
You're not that cool.
And they tell me what they were going to get. And I'm like, you may want to rethink this because a tattoo is really forever. Like, Tweety Bird, not a good one. Sylvester, no.
Tweety Bird where? Like what?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, seriously. Give it a little more thought. But a lot of people this week, I don't know what it is.
It's been weird.
It's been weird.
It has.
It has. Okay.
Well, and in this audience too, and you can ask 15 people like what's going on, and there will be astrologic responses. There will be, the solar flare. The sun's been throwing off a lot more energy. There will be all these different answers as to what's causing it. But what's true is that we're all evolving, and we're getting a lot more energy and support thrown at us from space, from the sun.
Oh yeah.
Here you go. Have
well,
some
more
energy.
Tell you what, on my 2021 bingo card, it's alien invasion.
Yeah.
And I just saw the news the other day. There are UFOs that the government has said, we don't know what these are.
They've had them for years. That's not even.
I know,
mystery.
but the government just said officially these triangles over these military fleets and the nuclear facilities.
Yep.
They don't know what they are.
They don't. But
and
what's going on? Yeah.
So nothing surprises me anymore.
Well, that's it. When they say like, oh, we have these ships, nothing surprises people anymore. And that's the goal. And I think that's been that for decades, is to desensitize us enough that when like, hey, we've got a new alien race that's come to help us, and we're like, okay, cool, come on. And
we could tell
seriously, like if someone walked in that door right now from another race, it would be like, oh, hey, you want to be on the show with us? Like it's fine. But I think that's kind of where we've gone is we've been desensitized to so much, and so much new stuff has been revealed and shown up over the last like 20 years that.
No, over the last 6 months.
And then they turn the volume knob way up, like, oh, here's more.
Yeah.
So, one of my friends was talking about a show he was watching on Gaia.com, which is about aliens and the different alien races, the ones that are watching us that want to help, and the ones that are watching us that think we're going to screw up, so they want to destroy us, and the ones that want to help are actually like shooting down the other ones. And it's like, it's a sci-fi movie, but it's really happening, and it's very funny to me, actually.
Wow. Well, let's look into the future. So,
Okay.
where do you see yourself on May 12th, 2026?
2020, so 5 years from now.
Yeah, well, I was being dramatic.
5
It's
years.
like-
I like that. No, I'm not good at math, so I had to think about that.
May 12th, 2026, 5 years from now.
5 years from now.
5 years.
Wow. Well, I have an amazing thing going on that's just flowing wonderfully, a great relationship, an amazing work contract that I love. I feel like it's just like I'm going to be more of the same and better. And I'm in a space now that I've really spent my whole life trying to get to, which is finding the work that I can do so I never feel like I'm working a day in my life, and help people and create. I love making art. So
Yeah, incredible artist.
Yeah.
Your murals and always doing stuff. And,
Yep.
check out Andrea's book. It's called Hey You, Own Your Story, Get Out of Your Way, a straight up guide to getting real, cutting crap, and creating the life you actually want.
yeah,
Andrea,
I just
Nicole
marked it
King.
down on Amazon today too.
Well, there you go. We'll go
So,
check it out. It's
get it.
Amazon. It's a good book. I definitely highly recommend it. I had the personal experience of Floganize, and it was incredible. And Andrea, thank you so much for being here today.
You're so welcome.
I really appreciate it. And you can learn more about Andrea by visiting her website at floganize.com. Also, like Tribe Earth and Andrea Nicole King. I think that's a lot of ways that we can find you.
I'm not hiding.
I don't think so either. Hey, when you reach out to Andrea, please let her know that you listened to this episode of Life Transformation Radio. There you go. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for your support and taking the time out of your busy and precious day to listen. We so appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me, along with my very dear friend, special guest, I love her so much, to touch your heart, move your soul, and inspire you to live a life of transformation. I'm Rob Actis. Until next time.
This is Life Transformation Radio. Download complete.